Hi everyone, welcome back to Almost Normal. We are glowing up the podcast, and by glowing up, I mean I got a ring light and I got a chair. This chair, I ordered it from Wayfair, I think, and it came in this tiny box, and I was like, oh fuck, I ordered like a baby chair. It was so vacuum packed. I'd never seen anything so vacuum packed in my life. And I had the package in my house for like 2 weeks. So anyway, it had been like compressed into this form for quite a long time, and I unboxed it and it literally was this big. And I was like, oh fuck, like this is not correct. Over time, it slowly started to grow. It was also like rock hard, and it's meant to be like a plushy chair, but it's kind of grown a bit. I mean, it's actually like quadrupled in size, but it's still kind of like hard in areas. So I'm assuming I have to leave it for like a few more days for it to grow into its full form, because it was like really squished in there. I like couldn't believe it. But it's doing well, you know? It's doing well. It's definitely getting bigger, which is good, but I'm hoping it gets bigger and also fluffier than this, because right now it's like half solid and half pillowy. I guess it's memory foam as well, so maybe it's gonna like keep its shape for much longer. I wish I took a picture of what it looked like. It looked hilarious when I took it out. It was like this and really heavy. Very strange. Anyway, hi guys, welcome back to another episode. I just got back from my Thanksgiving trip and I went for a week to the Caribbean with, I think, 45 members of my husband's family, most of which I have never met. So that was definitely an experience, definitely. My social battery is not the best. I think I can probably manage like one social event a day, if that, you know, like that's pushing it. But where we were staying, the only thing on the island was the hotel. There was nothing else on the island. There was no shops, no cafes, nothing, just the hotel. And this hotel has a particularly scheduled vibe where breakfast, lunch, and dinner is only in one location and it's at set times. So everyone for each meal has to sit all together. So it's like 45 people each meal, 3 times a day for a week, socializing every meal. And like, I struggle with that. I struggle with one of those a day. So 3 of them a day, I was sort of dying. And then also even in between meals, there's not like a whole lot to do there. You can kind of just go to the beach and that's it. And so obviously everyone is at the beach. So if you want alone time, you literally have to just like sit in your bedroom, which is like felt super antisocial. I did it a bunch of times and I got really into watching the Saw movies, and I also watched Hostel, which I'd never seen before, which was the weirdest movie ever. If you're into horror films and you haven't seen Hostel, I would recommend it because it's just like so strange. Definitely like a gory one. It's like a Saw kind of vibe, which I really, really like. But yeah, if you ever wanted any alone time, you literally had to just like go and sit alone in your bedroom. And every time I did that, I was like, Rita, don't do this. This is silly. Like, go and socialize with other people. I started to feel really bad. I started to feel like I was getting FOMO about what everyone else was like up to, even though like there was very limited things that they could have been doing. It was like a full social gathering. There was like very, very little alone time. So I was exhausted by the end of it. And it was meant to be like a super relaxing trip, and I was absolutely exhausted. It actually also was not actually meant to be as relaxing as I thought, because I did not realize that when I got home from Thanksgiving break, I would have 2 weeks left of school until the semester was over. I did not know that. So the week I'm in now is the second to last week of school until the semester's over. And I have so much shit to do. I have so many essays, so many projects that I have just not done. I haven't even looked at them, and they have to be done by next week. And so this Thanksgiving trip, I should have, in my alone time, been writing essays or doing something, and I was not. So anyway, I kind of regret that. I really did not think that I had only 2 weeks left when I got back. I did not know that. That became apparent to me yesterday. My teacher was like, okay, this is the second class, like next week is the last week of school. I was like, oh shit. Okay, and like you need to have everything in before the end of the semester, because otherwise like why the professors are not going to be marking your work or anything. So very, very stressful. Also, I am trying for my last year of school to do part-time so that I go to art school, if anyone didn't know, but I am trying to do part-time for my last year because I would love to just have a lot more studio time to paint as opposed to like having to be in other classes. At my school, you have to do like critical studies and sciences and all of that. And so I was kind of trying to get those all out the way before the last year of school. So then the last year of school, I could do part-time, which would mean I could just do like 1 or 2 classes a week. And then the rest of the time I could just be working on my own stuff, which I really, really would like to do. But that is very, very dependent on how this semester goes. So I am slightly freaking out because I have so much work to do. It's not even funny. I am like cracking under the pressure, but it has to be done. Basically, if I fail any of these classes, I will not be able to do part-time for my last year of school, which is like really, really, really what I want to do. It's not just like any semester, you know, I don't really have any more time to like make up classes or anything. This is it. I'll think about that right now because that is like the most stressful thing ever. Fuck. Let's not think about that right now. We are together, we are here, we are talking about other things. The trip was really fun. I had a really good time. Yes, very, very social and tiring, but it was a gorgeous place. It was so nice to be in the sun. I love swimming in the ocean. It's basically like a nature reserve, so that's just like so nice to be in. And it was great. It was wonderful. The only problem I really had on the trip was that my anxiety was so bad. It was so bad. It was almost, I could maybe say almost as bad as pre-medicated Rita. And that is bad. That is not a place that you want to be. I have extremely severe anxiety and OCD. I'm medicated for it now. I'm on Prozac. And for some reason, this trip, it was all coming back to me. And I would probably put that down to the fact that there was not a lot to do. It was a lot of sitting around, a lot of relaxing, a lot of like chilling, nothing fast-paced about it at all, like no urgency involved in the trip whatsoever, just sort of wake up in the morning, stroll to breakfast, have a leisurely breakfast for about an hour, stroll down to the beach, sit on the beach, have a nap, eat some lunch, go back to the beach, eat some dinner, go to bed. That was the schedule, basically, of every day of the trip. So I think that my anxiety got really, really bad because I didn't have all the distractions that I usually do. My life, like here in LA, is pretty fast paced. I go to school, I do the podcast, I try and keep some semblance of a social life. I live with my husband. We are always like working on our house, trying to figure out like what to change and what to improve and all of that. So like my life is usually pretty full when I'm in LA. I'm driving all the time. My school is like a 45-minute drive. So I'm just like, I'm always like doing something. I'm getting gas. I'm kind of like always on the move. And this trip like was the polar opposite of that, like complete opposite of what is usually going on in my life. I think that with the medication I'm on, because it is helping so much and because like my life is so busy, it's kind of easy for me to slip into the mindset that like I am not cured, because obviously that doesn't happen, but like into the mindset that I'm sort of like doing really well, you know. And apart from the medication and also the fact that I go to AA meetings, which is Alcoholics Anonymous, if anyone doesn't know, I'm sober, and that is like a form of group therapy. But apart from that, like I don't think I'm doing like a lot of work to make myself feel mentally well. And obviously on this trip, that has proven that to me, because it's the first time in a while where I haven't been so busy with things, and all of my anxieties and OCD symptoms came rushing back. Like literally the minute I didn't have a lot to do or I didn't have many distractions, I was feeling almost like back to my old self, which is really, really bad. If anyone has OCD who's watching this, it is all consuming, persistent. You know, it does not stop, ever. I will wake up in the morning worried about something, and I will be worried until the moment I go to sleep. And even when I go to sleep, recently, I have been having the worst anxiety dreams in the world, which actually, then when I wake up, it sets me off onto like a horrible, anxious day. I'll have these dreams about things that I'm like genuinely worried about, or my OCD is like making me think I should be worried about. And so like even when I'm sleeping, I'm worrying, which is just absolutely crazy to think about. But recently, the past week, and like even now, even though I'm home, like I have been having the worst anxiety dreams ever. Like relapse dreams, like dreams that I was drinking and doing drugs. I keep having dreams that I'm like being really mean to everyone, which is like an OCD trigger of mine, where I feel like I've like hurt someone or been rude to someone. Another OCD thing of mine is like constant worry that I like accidentally drank alcohol or something, which is like all up in my dreams at the moment. Like I keep dreaming that I drink tequila or something and then I'm like crazy. So yeah, even when I'm asleep, like it's still there. It's persistent. It's all consuming. And it's kind of sad because to be in a good mental place, you shouldn't really have to be distracted. You know, like to be really in a good mental spot, like you should be able to relax and not be doing something and still feel okay. And obviously, I'm not there yet because this trip has proved to me that if I sit around and don't have the typical distractions that I usually do, I am going to start panicking and I'm going to start ruminating and I'm going to start worrying, and my brain will start coming up with scenarios that didn't happen, but it'll tell me it did, and I'm gonna have to start like fixing these imaginary problems, which is like really, really hard to fix a problem that doesn't exist, but I'll be doing it. And yeah, it's all consuming. It basically doesn't let you think about anything else. It's horrible. It's really bad. It's something that I struggle with and have, I think, always kind of struggled with, which is probably why I drank to distract myself from my thoughts. This trip, it really started to come up. Like all of my triggers really, really became so strong, and it was really scary, really worrying. When you're in a place like that, you feel very unsafe, you feel very isolated. Even though my husband is like very understanding of everything I go through, and I do try and talk to him about stuff, like it is difficult to try and explain to someone who doesn't have anxiety OCD how you're feeling. That's totally fine. Like it's not his fault that he doesn't understand it. It's like something I feel like you have to experience yourself to like really, really get it. And I think that's why people find it hard to look after people with severe mental illness, because almost impossible to understand what they're going through, and it's really, really hard to be sympathetic when you don't understand what they're going through. You can be empathetic, but yeah, you know, it's like, oh, I can try and explain to him like how I'm feeling today as much as I want, but it just like is not really going to register 100% in his brain, which is fine. Like that makes sense. But even in my distracted day-to-day life, like I still feel anxiety, I still feel OCD, things like pop up here and there, but it's not like all consuming. It doesn't take up every part of my brain. I'm able to like think about other stuff. I'm able to be excited and happy about things. And when it's all consuming, I am not. I find it hard to enjoy anything. Before I was diagnosed and medicated, I lived with OCD and I didn't even know it was OCD. I had no idea. I didn't know what I had. I didn't know that what I was experiencing was anything different than like anyone else's experience. So I didn't really like think about it too much. I didn't really look into it that much. And also I drank a lot of alcohol to curb the feelings of the OCD that I was experiencing. So I was like not that aware of what was going on inside my brain at that point before being diagnosed. And I have only been diagnosed for the past 3 years, I think. I think it's been 3 years since I got the like actual diagnosis. But before then, obviously, I wasn't looking into it. Then, while I was on medication, I started on Lexapro, and after a while, I really didn't think that it was the right medication for me, but classic person on medication, I decided to just cold turkey it and completely stop without telling my doctor about it, which is very, very silly. Do not do that. But I, at one point in this 3 years, decided to stop taking Lexapro and obviously had a nervous breakdown. One of the worst weeks of my life. I wanted to die. I couldn't get out of bed. I was crying. I thought the world was like closing in on me. I thought everyone was against me. I kept thinking I was doing everything wrong and I was just a horrible person. And it was really quite intense, very, very intense. And I was not able to do anything. And then I eventually was put on Prozac because I was like, oh, I don't think Lexapro is working for me. Obviously, I can't be without anything right now because I'm unfunctioning. I'm not a functioning human being right now. But the Lexapro was making me super tired. I was like on the freeway, almost falling asleep. It was just bad. I was like gaining a lot of weight, kind of like uncontrollably, which was also scary to me because I felt very out of control of my body, and that was like adding new issues for me mentally. So anyway, I was like, okay, can we try something else? I tried Prozac, and I have been on Prozac ever since. And I have had, obviously, little bouts of anxiety and OCD. It doesn't take everything completely away. But I think this trip has kind of been one of the first times where I really felt quite out of control while being on medication. And I really could feel all my OCD just like coming up and just like overtaking me. I was sort of in this strange in-between place where I was medicated, so I kind of was a functioning adult. However, my OCD had not been that bad while being on medication, so I was kind of in this like strange purgatory between like being fine and being not fine. So one night I was like, maybe if I try and like understand my OCD a little bit better, because obviously my doctor, like, he only told me that I had OCD, and I obviously tell him my symptoms and all of that, but like he didn't really go into like the sections of OCD that I had. And so I kind of started to research it one night because I was kind of going insane. I was spiraling about something. I probably can't remember what it was now. And I was just sitting in bed and I couldn't sleep, and I was just like in such a bad mental place. And I was like, you know what? Let's just get on the internet. I just want to see like all the different types of OCD there are out there, because I genuinely have never done that for myself. I've never looked into what particular area of OCD I suffer from. And before now, I thought maybe I only had like one or two. I think I might have more than that. I think I may have a few more than that. So anyway, I did my research and I looked up all the different types of OCD. I don't know if I would call them types. They're just sort of like themes. Someone described them as also as themes of OCD. So I don't know if I would say types of OCD. They maybe just be like themes. They may just be classified as themes of OCD. And also, after my lengthy research, I realized that a lot of people categorize these types or themes in very, very different ways. So I kind of collated information and made a list of what seemed to be like common things that everyone kind of seemed to touch on. But I will say that like everyone who did any literature on OCD, they all kind of categorized them in their own different ways. I don't know how many times I've said OCD in this episode, but I'm about to say it a lot more. During this research, it was just like very eye-opening to see literature literally telling my story. You know, it's crazy. Like even very, very specific ones like hit and run OCD, which was like someone else's. I put this in a different section in my list, but someone on the blog put hit and run OCD as like a category of OCD. That is so insane. I have exactly that. I think that I've hit people with my car and I didn't realize, and I'll have to like go around the block a couple times to make sure like there's not like a dead body on the floor that I hit with my car and like didn't realize. Like that is such a specific type of thought, and I have it, and someone else on the internet has been writing about it. Crazy. But anyway, I'm gonna go through my little list that I made, and we're just gonna see like what I have, what I experience. So if anyone else is experiencing it as well, hopefully this will be a little bit comforting, because I know that learning that other people feel the same way you feel is like the most relieving thought ever. Okay, so anyway, here's the list. Number 1 is contamination OCD, which is fear of germs, dirt, or contaminants, often leading to excessive cleaning, hand washing, or avoidance of perceived dirty spaces or objects. Definitely, I have this. I 100% have this. As a kid, the only sort of The only sort of like sign that I maybe suffered from OCD when I was a kid was the fact that I had periods in my life where I was such a germaphobe and I would shower like 3 times a day. I remember sitting on the carpet during circle time with my elementary school peers, and a kid like accidentally scratched me. He's like moved his hand and like scratched my arm. And I remember having an absolute panic attack because I thought that because he scratched me, all of his germs were going to go into my body and like overtake my whole body. That's a very vivid core memory of mine. So that is a type of OCD. So I think I have actually literally suffered from OCD since being a child. Now with this, I would also put into this category like contamination of drinks. So as I like mentioned before, I'm always a little bit wary of accidentally drinking alcohol because I'm a sober person. That is something in my mind all the time. And so the contamination OCD, I kind of would put in with that because I have these fears that someone's drink like spilled into my drink and then I'm gonna drink alcohol by accident. So I would also put that into contamination OCD, and that's a huge one for me. And it will stop me from like drinking the drinks that I paid money for. Also, if I have like a coffee or anything and I have it out of my sight for even a couple seconds, like I'll find it really, really hard to drink it because I will convince myself that like someone put something in it or someone spiked it or anything. Like even if I'm sitting at a cute cafe and I turn away for a second from my coffee, I'm gonna find it really, really hard to like continue to drink it because I will fully convince myself that like someone has contaminated the drink and it's gonna drug me or whatever. So I definitely have contamination OCD. Okay, number 2 is harm OCD. Intrusive thoughts or fears about causing harm to oneself or others, often paired with compulsions to prevent perceived danger. I definitely have this. As I also mentioned before, the hit and run OCD I would put into this category because that's a full fear that you have injured someone. And so I think mainly for my harm OCD, I would put like the fact that when I drive, I genuinely have to drive around the block 1 or 2 times to make sure I did not hit anyone with my car, which to other people sounds mad. To me sounds very reasonable and understandable. So I remember watching this documentary about this woman who had really, really severe OCD, and her OCD manifested it in a way. If she was walking down the street and she saw someone, she had this oppressive thought that she had put someone in the bin. She had this overwhelming thought that the person she just walked past on the street, she had put in the bin, put in the trash can and didn't realize. And then she would have to go back to all the trash cans she saw like lined on the street and check all of them to make sure that the person she walked past earlier was not in the trash can. This sounds maybe interesting to people. I watched that documentary and I totally understood her. I was like, yep, girl, I get you. 100% I get you. This woman was literally in a mental hospital, so I did get slightly concerned that I related to her so much, and I was like, let's not put me in a mental hospital, please. But I totally got her, like 100%. There was nothing crazy about that. Nothing sounded out of the ordinary for me. I was like, I totally get that woman. Like, me and her are one. We are the same. Another thing with harm OCD that I think I kind of suffer with is if I'm having a conversation with someone, I'll leave the conversation and start to convince myself that I said something really, really rude and hurt that person's feelings, and I said something really bad and I didn't realize. I would like to say also quickly that like OCD is very, very selfish. Like, it's super selfish. If I really think onto all of these thoughts and what really worries me, if I play the tape forward, everything I'm concerned about is selfish. Like, all of these things that I convince myself I did or said, the part that I'm mostly worried about are the consequences that I will have to deal with myself. So let's say that I hit someone with my car. I'll mostly be concerned about what happens next. Like, will I have to go to prison because I killed someone and I did a hit and run and I killed someone? And if I feel like I accidentally said something rude to someone, like, my concern, I think, is kind of more towards, is everyone going to think I'm a horrible person and I'm going to be cancelled and everyone's going to hate me, as opposed to my concern being that I actually like hurt someone's feelings. Does that make any sense? Like, my concerns go towards like the consequences that I'll have to experience, not the other person. So like, it's like a very, very selfish mental illness, you know? You are constantly concerned about yourself. And I kind of feel like all mental illness is very selfish, because if you have anxiety, you're constantly worried about like what's going to happen to you or your loved ones. And even when you think about your loved ones, you are in the end thinking about like how you will feel if something bad happens to your loved ones. If you have depression, you're very focused on yourself. Like, it's like they're all very inner problems, you know? Okay, number 3 is checking OCD, which I absolutely have. I check things 1,000 times. I check candles, I check stoves, I check doors. I'm constantly worried that my house is going to burn down. While I was on holiday, this typically happens a little bit because like I'm away from my own home, and I have like very strong anxiety when it comes to like sleeping in places that I don't really know. So on this holiday as well, and this happens every single holiday, this is not just this holiday, like every holiday, every time I sleep somewhere new, I do this. And it's gonna sound crazy to anyone, I'm sure, but I don't think I named them myself, but I think it was my mom that named them. But basically, before I go to sleep, if I'm in a place that I don't know, I will put like a piece of paper or a notebook or just a regular book or something, and I will prop it against the door. And the stuff that I put against the door is nothing that's gonna like barricade me in. If someone were to try and come in, all of the objects that I put up against the door are not going to prevent them from coming into the room. But anyway, before I go to bed, I will put something against the door so that when I wake up in the morning, if the book or the paper or whatever I used has been moved, I will know that someone tried to come into my room or did come into my room. I don't know how that helps me. No idea how that helps me, because if I wake up and it is moved, the person has already come into my room. What I put up on the door did not help my safety. It did not barricade me in. It's not like I put like a full dresser against the door, so if someone tried to come in, like they wouldn't be able to open the door. I'm literally putting like a tiny piece of paper up against the door just so that when I wake up, I can be 100% sure that no one came into the room. And my mum calls them goblin traps. I don't know if I just mentioned that, but now my husband also calls them goblin traps, and he'll see me do them. Like, I even do them when I'm sleeping in the same room as my husband. Like, I'll put them up every night. Yeah, is that a form of checking OCD? I don't really know. I have to definitely double check that I've put them up, so I don't know. But I definitely check that the doors are locked. And I also check that the faucets are always off, because I'm like also really concerned that everything's gonna flood all the time. Yeah. Okay, number 4 is symmetry and ordering OCD. Obsession with symmetry, order, or things being just right, often leading to compulsions to align or arrange items in a specific way. I don't really think I have this object-wise. I don't think I have an urge to have everything like lined up. I'm like the messiest person I've ever met. My car is literally a second home to me. I have a whole closet in there on the floor. I have cans of Red Bull just like rolling around. I have paint, I have oils, like I have everything in my car. This room, I shove all my shit out of the camera view. So this room is not, like, I'm not a tidy person. I'm not someone who needs everything to be symmetrical. The one thing that I relate to in that, though, is the just right part, where if I do an action, if I'm going through an OCD cycle and it becomes a action that I have to keep repeating. Some people, when they get into those sort of action cycles, some people have to do it to 3 or 5 or whatever. There's a specific number they have to do it to. For me, I have to continue to do the action until it feels right. And for me, that usually means I have to be thinking about something good. And if I'm thinking about something bad, like illness or death or scary things, I have to do the action again until I'm thinking about something good, like happiness or my family being well or someone I really like on the TV, you know? As an example, if I'm pouring milk into my cup of tea, let's say I pour the milk and I'm thinking about something scary like cancer, I have to do it again and again and again until, as I pour, I am thinking about something good, something that makes me happy, something that makes me feel safe. And as most people probably know, mind control is extremely difficult. So this can go on for hours. This can go on forever. I need the power to tell myself to stop, because I genuinely have been stuck in those cycles for like 30 minutes and it's horrible. And I end up crying because I can't get out of them, and it's absolutely just like awful. I guess the just right thing I relate to, but I don't relate to like symmetry or ordering. But I do relate to like controlling my thoughts to suit me. So I don't know. Okay, number 5 is sexual OCD, which I suffer from majorly. It's a hard one for me to talk about, but basically intrusive, unwanted sexual thoughts or images that are distressing and inconsistent with the individual's values, often leading to avoidance behaviors. I have this really, really badly. I have a real problem with taking naps or, again, sleeping, especially in places that I don't really know, because my brain, if I'm in a bad way, will convince me that like something happened while I was sleeping, usually a sexual thing. And that is really, really scary. And those are the ones that sort of stick with me for a really long time. And I find it really hard to get over them. And they're just horrible because they're just like really scary, bad thoughts. And like the more I try and fight them, the worse they become. Every time you bring up a memory, you alter it. And so my OCD will continue to make me think of this horrible sexual thing that it's made up in my mind. But the more I think about it, the realer it becomes in my brain. And that is when it gets really scary, because then I like convince myself that it genuinely happened. And that's really horrible. There are a lot of parts to sexual OCD. There's also like POCD, which is pedophilia OCD, which is when you convince yourself you're a pedophile, which I actually genuinely had as a child. There's also sexual orientation OCD, when you have a really, like, it's like, yeah, you constantly think you're like living a lie with your sexual orientation, like you don't know who you are. I had that also as a kid. I always thought that I would convince myself that I was a lesbian and that no one wanted to hang out with me, because all my girlfriends would think that I like wanted to kiss them all the time. I really experienced sexual OCD even from a kid, really badly. It's like a really, really scary one. It's something that I want to address in therapy if I were to start therapy, and I absolutely definitely should, but that is something that I really, really want to work on, because it's genuinely one of the scariest types that I experience, because it can become feeling really, really real, and those are not thoughts that you want to be living with day to day. Yeah, I remember having my first meeting with my psychiatrist and trying to explain that to him, and obviously this is the first time that I've ever tried to explain properly what I was going through to someone, and I started telling him like how my thoughts were going, and it was the first time, and it was so crazy, but it was the first time anyone really, really understood what I was going through, because I started explaining to him about the scary sexual feelings and thoughts that I was having, and like how they manifested into my physical life, and like what I felt like I had to do in order to make myself feel better. And he was like, oh yeah, so when you have these thoughts, like, do you feel like you have to go to the clinic because you think that something has happened to you and now you need to go get like tested for anything, STDs and stuff? And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what happens. Like, I go through my whole day trying to figure out, like, if I have to go to the doctor and work out, like, if something is wrong with me, sexually wrong with me. And he's like, yep, totally. And then he started, like, ticking things off on his little chart. And I was just like, oh my God, no one has ever understood that before, ever. That is crazy to me. I can't believe he totally got that. And then obviously the thoughts were like, okay, so maybe I'm not the only one that feels this way. Doesn't really make them any less scary, because sometimes when OCD is really bad, it's really hard to decide what thoughts are real and what thoughts are your mental illness. And I think that's like where it becomes tricky, because there's also like a lack of trust in yourself. And so even when you're telling someone the story of what you're feeling, there's still a part of you that's like, but maybe I did do that. You know, maybe that did happen. And like, yes, maybe other people feel that way, but maybe for me it's real, you know, like there's still that element to it. So it's still, even if you tell someone how you're feeling and they understand, like there's still that, you're still sort of like, maybe for me though, it's different. You know, maybe I genuinely am going through these things that my brain is telling me I am. So I don't know. But anyway, that one is really big for me. Very, very scary. Very hard to talk about. Yeah, that's probably my biggest concern. You know, that kind of goes into all of the other areas of my OCD, you know, like contamination OCD. If I'm concerned that I drank, I'm concerned, you know, if I play that tape forward, I'm concerned that I drank. And then I'm concerned that I'll do something wrong in a sexual manner because I'm like drunk or whatever. The harm OCD, not so much, but the checking OCD, like checking the doors, like I'm checking the doors to make sure it's locked so that like an intruder does not come into my home. So that also links with the sexual OCD. And the symmetry and ordering OCD, like having the thoughts that are just right, you know, the scary thoughts that I have to sort of like overtake in order to complete the action properly. Those are usually like scary sexual thoughts, to be honest. And so if I do the action and I'm thinking of one of those sexual thoughts, I have to redo the action because otherwise maybe that sexual thing that I'm thinking about is going to happen. All kind of like connects to my sexual OCD, to be honest. So it's like, that's a really, really big one for me. Anyway, number 6 is religious or scrupulosity OCD. Obsession about morality, sin, or religious faith, often leading to compulsive prayer, confession, or reassurance seeking. I don't really think I have this. I never was brought up religious. My mum was, and I see like the fear of God in her a lot, and I feel really bad for her that she has that. But I personally was not brought up in a religious setting, so I don't really think about that a lot. Morality and sin, I definitely think about, but I don't know if that's like within a religious context, so I don't know. Number 7 is relationship OCD, which is obsessions about the strength, or authenticity, or rightness of one's relationships, often paired with compulsions like constant questioning or reassurance seeking. I don't think I have this with my partner, but now that I'm thinking about it properly, I do sometimes have this with friendships where I constantly question whether my friends are my friends, and I like constantly question whether people are mad at me, and I kind of seek reassurance quite a lot from them. I get very concerned that I did something wrong and they're mad at me for it. So actually, before when I was reading this, I said no, that I don't have relationship OCD, but for some reason I wasn't considering friendships as relationships, which obviously they definitely are. And so I definitely do have that with friendships where I question whether they want to be my friend. I question whether I'm cool enough to be their friend, or if they're just hanging out with me because like I asked them to hang out and they felt bad. So I definitely do have that now that I'm thinking about it like that. Number 8 is pure O, which is primarily obsessional OCD. This is characterized by intrusive thoughts without visible compulsions. Mental rituals such as repeated analysis or reassurance seeking often accompany this form. I don't think I have this because my intrusive thoughts make me do compulsions. They give me physical compulsions that I have to act out, so I don't think I have that one because my OCD thoughts definitely manifest into physical action. So 9, health-related or somatic OCD, fixation on physical health or bodily functions, e.g. breathing, blinking, heart rate, or often leading to anxiety or compulsive monitoring. I always kind of think I'm sick. I just call myself a hypochondriac. For as long as I can remember, I have been very concerned about my ability to have children for some reason. I've had no indication that I will not be able to have kids. I've never had a doctor tell me that that's something that I will not be able to do. I've never tried to have a child, but for some reason, I have always had this like thought in the back of my mind that that's going to be something that I'm going to struggle with. Is that health-related OCD? I don't know. Is that OCD or is that just like purely anxiety because I very much want to have children, and I can only imagine what the women who are told they can't have kids go through, and I think that I'm like very, very concerned about that. Whether that's OCD related or not, I couldn't say, but that's definitely something I have. Okay, number 10 is hoarding OCD, difficulty discarding items due to fear of needing them later or emotional attachment leading to clutter and excessive accumulation. Am I a hoarder? I wouldn't like to say that. Can I throw things away? Not really. No, I can't. I, for the first time the other day, gathered all the jeans that no longer fit me because I've literally had them since I was about 15 years old, and I don't have the same body type as I did when I was 15, obviously, thank God. But I think I counted, and at that point, I had 60 pairs of jeans, all of which I never wore. I wear one pair of jeans. I have one pair of jeans that I have two of, and I wear those and no other jeans ever. But somehow I had 60 pairs of jeans, and I was going through them, trying them on. Literally none of them fit me, or I just did not like them. And it took a lot in me, but I started to put the ones that really didn't fit me in a suitcase in order to donate them or sell them. Going to the thrift stores and trying to let go of these things was incredibly hard for me. I thought about it for days after I let go of a few pairs, and I felt genuinely guilt. I felt genuinely guilty and bad for leaving them behind. It was a very, very strange feeling, and I have so many clothes that I don't wear, and I purely have them because I can't really let things go. Bringing those jeans to the thrift store and actually leaving them there was really, really difficult for me. I have to do it with all of my clothes. I find it very hard to get around to that. I never give my clothes away, but at this point it's becoming crazy. I have no drawer space or anything. I literally have an entire room to put my clothes in, and they don't fit. So I would say that do I have a difficult time letting things go? Yes. I don't know if anyone watched my last video on OCD that I made, but I told the story about when I was at school. I got a takeout coffee at the cafe, and I finished the coffee and I had the cup, and I don't know why, but I could not throw this cup away. I could not throw my cup away. It literally a takeout used coffee cup that I had in my possession for about 2 hours. I could not throw it away. It was emotionally hurting me, and eventually when I did, I had thoughts that I should go back and take it out of the trash and bring it home with me. I did not do that. I did not let myself do that. That would have been crazy of me, and I would not have let myself forget about that. But the thoughts were there, absolutely. I was genuinely thinking maybe I should go back and get it. So I definitely think I have a hard time letting things go. I get an emotional attachment to them. I feel like I might need them. I don't know. When I was on Thanksgiving break, this woman gave me a chocolate, and I ate the chocolate, and I had a wrapper, and I held onto the wrapper, and I think I still have the wrapper in my suitcase. For some reason I just couldn't let go of this little wrapper. So I think maybe yes. Don't know. Okay, number 11 is existential OCD, which is obsessions about life's meaning, purpose, or reality, often leading to mental rituals like overanalyzing philosophical existential questions. I don't really think I have this. Sometimes I think about the fact that I have to die, and I get really obsessed with that, and it genuinely puts me into a really, really dark, scary place because I'm fucking terrified of dying. What happens to us? It scares me to no avail. But I don't really think that's something that I obsess over a lot. Sometimes if I'm sitting alone and I'm I have to die one day, I'll have a moment, but that's not really something that takes over my day-to-day life. I don't really think about that too often, thank God, because otherwise I would never get out of bed. Okay, and the number 12 is mental contamination OCD, which is a sense of feeling dirty internally due to thoughts, experiences, or people, leading to cleansing rituals or avoidance. I kind of feel the sexual OCD goes with that, because I think that when I have those thoughts in my mind, I genuinely feel dirty and gross, internally. I don't know if that's the same thing, but other than that, I don't think I have that. But yeah, that seems to be all of the subtypes. I'm sure there's thousands more, to be honest. That was kind of all I could that was the way I just got all the common ones from various sources and then made my own list. But people categorize them in hundreds of different ways. This is not from some specific place. Very interesting that people have categorized these into different sections, and like also very interesting how many I experienced myself, a little bit worrying. But anyway, yeah, I thought that was interesting, so I kind of want to talk about that today. But yeah, I love you guys very much. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It's super helpful to me, and you can see anytime I post anything. And yeah, I love you guys so much. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next time. And if there's anything you want me to specifically cover, could be anything, or if you just like look in my previous videos what I kind of talk about, mostly like anxiety stuff, girly stuff, growing up stuff, whatever. But let me know if there's anything specific you want me to talk about, and I'll do my best. But I love you guys very much, and I'll see you next time. Okay, I love you. Bye.